Hello there. My name is Pelle and I'm a programmer here at PatchXR. And in this video, I'm going to show you some fundamental patching techniques that you can use to get started building your own weird music machines. I'm going to use this tutorial patch that I have made. You can follow along at home by pressing the B button on your controller, going into Demos, Building, and then loading the Patching 101 file here. I'm going to assume that you know how to move around inside of Patch. If you forgot, you press the trigger and the grab button at the same time, and you are able to kind of drag or swim around. Alright, so let's get started with step 1. So, to make sound in Patch, we connect generators to outputs. And in this case, I have added a noise block that will generate a stream of white noise. And I have the output block, which receives a stream and sends it out to your headphones or speakers. Now, if I take the noise block and I plug it into the output, we will hear the noise in our headphones. So let's try and do that. Oh, and I can remove the connection again by just pulling the block away again. And when I have the noise connected to the output, we say that a stream is flowing from the noise block to the output block. Alright, very good. So let's move on. So that was all fine and good, but it was maybe a bit loud. And one of the first things you want to do is to control the volume or amplitude of the sound you're making. And the way you do that is with a multiplier block. So when I plug the noise block into the multiplier, it will take the stream coming from here and multiply it by whatever it sees up here. And this could also be a different input coming in here, but in this case, it's just the number you see here. And if this number is between 0 and 1, then the sound is going to become less loud. So let's try and plug this in to the output here. And you hear that the sound is not as loud as before. I can change this multiplication constant by hovering close to this input here and pressing the trigger, and then turning my controller in like a circular motion. I can change the decimal point of this number here by hovering close to it and then pressing the thumbstick left or right. So if I press it right, I'll get one more decimal, and if I press it left, I get one less. So we can control the amplitude now. Very good. And I'm gonna put this to 0 so the sound doesn't bother us when we go on to the next step. And the next step is that we want something else to control the amplitude of the noise. And for that, we are going to use the decay block. And what the decay block does is that it creates like a smooth slope going from 1 all the way down to 0. And we can visualize it if I open this roller deck where I have all my different blocks, and I can go to kinetic. Let me take out a rail block. Oh, here we go. Close the roller deck. The rail block here is just, it has an input here that will just control how long this rod here is. And we can use, and if I take the decay block here, let me just put this up a little bit, plug it into here. We can use that to visualize the signal coming out of the decay. So if I press the button here, I will trigger the decay. You see that the rod shoots out and then like goes back smoothly. And we are going to use that to control the amplitude of the noise block. instead of doing it manually. So I take the decay, I plug it into the other input of the multiplier here, and I press the button. And we get a lovely like hi-hat or maybe snare kind of noisy percussion sound. Beautiful, much more musical than just the static noise. Alright, next point is we probably want our very lovely percussion sound to play a rhythm. And to do that, we need to trigger the decay block in some way. And the way you do that is with jolts. And in patch, a jolt is like a signal that will trigger stuff to happen. And here I have added a metro block, and this block just sends out jolts every once in a while, like at regular intervals. In this case, 4 times per second. So if I want the metro to control the decay, I hover my controller close to this tip here. We call it an emitter. And I press the trigger button on my controller. And you see I have started dragging a wire. And I'm holding down the trigger button. And I can take the wire and I can drag it over to the button here. And it's going to start sending jolts through the wire that will trigger the decay, and we get a lovely rhythm. I can of course control the decay of the sound while it's playing, and I could also plug in something else here to control the decay. Alright, very, very nice. Alright, so far we have been making sound with just the noise block over here, but that is of course not the only way that you can create sound inside of patch. For example, we have the OSC block that will make like more of a tonal sound. So you see that this part over here of my little machine is this exactly the same as the part I had over here with the wire. Except now I'm going to use the OSC instead of the noise block. Let's hear how that sounds. Very nice. We have more like a bell-like sound. Over here I can control the frequency of the oscillator. And I can of course still control the length of this decay envelope that we have made here. I can also control the... Oh, that ain't working. Let's move on to the last step of... Oh shit. Sorry about that. Let's move on to the last step of the tutorial, where we're not only going to control the amplitude of the sound, but we're also going to control the frequency of the oscillator using an additional decay block. So as you remember, the decay outputs a value from 1 going towards 0. That is not the best value range to control frequency. So what we will do is that we will plug this into a multiplier that will get the stream going through here into a range that is better for controlling frequency. For example, we're multiplying it by 300, which is a frequency that we will actually be able to hear. So decay going into multiplier, and we plug this into the frequency input of the oscillator. And now we just need to trigger both of these decays. So I'm gonna take a wire coming from this metro up here, plug it into this decay, and drag another wire from the same emitter over to this decay. And you hear we get a very nice electronic tom sound. Alright, and we can of course go back and plug in everything else, and we get a nice little groove going. Alright, so I encourage you to go through this patch yourself and play around. Maybe what happens if you turn. Oh, what's going on here? Well, if you try and turn some random knobs, or what if you plug stuff in differently, just go ahead and experiment and play around with it. You can also open the roller deck here. Oh, where I go? It's over here. Oh, it's all the way over here. Um, and you can just look through the categories and then just try and spawn the different blocks and try and figure out what they do. Some blocks, or most blocks, we are not really done with the documentation of everything yet, but if you hold your controller over a block, it will show you a bit of text that explains what that block does. Or if you have questions or want to know about a specific block, write us a message on the Discord and we will be very happy to answer. So this is a very good foundation for building your own machines. Maybe I can just show you some of the machines that we have built. For example, we have the drums here. So we made a very simple little noisy drum sound, but with just a few more blocks you can make some more sophisticated drum sounds. So in this patch here I have 3 of what we call instruments or sub patches. So behind this panel, or kind of inside, there is a bunch of blocks, but this is just a nice interface that gives you kind of a high level interface to interact with a specific patch. So I can trigger the sound. We have a kick, a snare, hi-hat, and I can sequence them using just a metro and some other logic blocks. We have a little dance group going. I can change the tempo. Very cool. And these subpatches are actually not very complicated, and you can even, if you wanted to, you can go in here, dependencies, and all of the patches are in here. You can go and check out what are inside of those patches. You can also take a look at this P sequencer, which was made by my very talented colleague Chris. And here we have, and this is quite an advanced patch, and we're going to talk about more about this in other videos. But I want you to just focus on this part right here, where he built like a basic subtractive synthesizer, and he did this pretty much with just the envelope block, kind of like we saw, and the oscillator block, and it can make some very cool sounds with just a few effects and a sequencer. And might look complicated, but you will be doing stuff like this in no time. Alright, and I think that was everything for this video. Thanks a lot for sticking around until the end here. Yeah, and see you on the Discord. Bye.